The rain pounded against the mansion's vast windows like a furious drum, and the wind whipped the towering oaks surrounding the estate into a frenzy. Inside, everything gleamed with cold perfection: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and walls adorned with priceless paintings. But amidst all this wealth, a sound cut through the silence, a soft, desperate wail that didn't belong to this sterile world. Claire Thompson, a young woman barely scraping by as a caregiver for an elderly neighbor in Atlanta, could feel her heart tighten as she followed the sound, her instincts screaming that something was terribly wrong. Before she knew it, she was standing at the grand double doors of the Millionaire's mansion, drenched and trembling, staring at a source of sorrow she would never forget. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Claire hadn't meant to intrude. She had been delivering groceries to her elderly neighbor on this stormy night, when a frantic call had guided her here. She had heard the crying from outside, sharp and persistent, carried by the wind. No one else was around. The street was empty, the estate looming like a fortress, and yet something compelled her to step inside. As her eyes adjusted to the soft glow of the interior, she saw him, a tiny infant, no older than 6 months, bundled in a pale blanket, lying in an ornate crib that looked far too extravagant for something so innocent. The baby's tiny fists flailed in distress, his cries echoing off the marble walls, and Claire's chest ached with a mix of fear and compassion. She approached cautiously, her voice trembling as she murmured words of comfort. The baby's cries didn't falter at first, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, they began to soften in response to her presence. She checked the room for any sign of an adult. There was none. The mansion was eerily quiet save for the storm outside and the gentle coos she tried to offer. Her mind raced. Who could leave a child here, and why? She didn't have answers, but one thing was certain: she couldn't leave him there alone. Claire's own life had been far from easy. Growing up in a modest apartment with her single mother, she had learned early the meaning of struggle. She had dreams, yes, but every day was a battle to make ends meet. Yet, in that moment, all that faded away. The infant before her was helpless, and Claire's heart refused to let fear dictate her actions. She picked him up, feeling the fragile weight of his tiny body against her chest. The moment her skin touched his, he quieted, burying his face into her shoulder. For the first time, she felt a strange connection, as if fate had brought them together for a reason neither could understand. Suddenly, the grand doors creaked behind her, and a tall man entered. He was impeccably dressed, his tailored suit flawless despite the storm outside. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and his sharp blue eyes widened in disbelief when he saw Claire holding the baby. For a moment, he was completely speechless, frozen in shock. Claire, unsure if he was friend or foe, held the baby closer, her voice steady but firm as she explained what had happened. The man, Michael Harrington, was a billionaire known for his ruthless business acumen and icy demeanor. He had built his empire from scratch and trusted few. Yet here, in the most private corners of his mansion, he found himself undone, not by deals, not by power, but by the sight of a stranger showing genuine care for his child. The baby's cries had woken him from a troubled night, and he had been frantically searching for the source. Seeing Claire with his son, he felt an unfamiliar emotion stirring deep inside: gratitude, awe, and a twinge of humility. Claire could see the vulnerability in his eyes, the weight of sleepless nights and unspoken fears. She had no illusions about the man's world, she knew. She was stepping into something far bigger than herself, but she didn't hesitate. She rocked the baby gently, singing a lullaby she had learned from her grandmother, and watched as the tiny features relaxed, the first hint of peace appearing in his tear-streaked face. Michael stood silently, watching, his pride clashing with an overwhelming sense of wonder. Hours passed as the storm raged outside. Claire never put the baby down. She fed him, soothed him, and whispered promises he didn't yet understand. Michael observed quietly, feeling a strange humility that no boardroom meeting or business triumph had ever instilled. Slowly, the barriers he had built around himself began to crumble. Here was a woman who had nothing, yet offered everything: time, patience, warmth, to someone she didn't even know, and in doing so she changed him, silently but profoundly. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving a fresh, clean scent in the air. Michael, exhausted yet awake with a new clarity, looked at Claire. Words felt inadequate. How could he thank someone who had given more than he could ever imagine? She smiled softly, brushing the infant's hair from his tiny forehead. He just needed someone to care, she said simply, almost as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. And somehow, in that brief sentence, she spoke volumes. Michael's heart, long encased in walls of ambition and suspicion, cracked open. He realized that wealth meant nothing if it couldn't nurture love and compassion. And for the first time, he understood that real power wasn't in money or influence. It was in the courage to act with kindness, even when the world didn't notice. Claire had shown him that courage. She had turned a night of fear and confusion into a moment of human connection that would never be forgotten. From that day on, Claire and Michael's lives were forever intertwined. She became a trusted presence in the mansion, a gentle influence on a man who had once believed he needed nothing but control. And Michael learned to see the world through eyes softened by gratitude and compassion, understanding that the smallest acts of kindness often left the deepest marks. The baby, now safe and cherished, grew surrounded by love, a reminder of that stormy night when one woman's courage bridged two very different worlds. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to believe in miracles, and subscribe for more inspiring tales. Your support means the world. Before we end, I'd love for you to comment below on what you would do if you found yourself in Claire's shoes. Would you risk everything to help a stranger in need? In the end, it wasn't the mansion, the wealth, or the luxury that made the difference. It was the simple, undeniable truth that one person's love and courage could transform lives in ways no fortune ever could. Claire had not only saved a baby, she had awakened humanity in a man who thought he had seen it all. And as the sun rose over the sprawling estate, casting light through the grand windows, the world seemed a little warmer, a little brighter, and infinitely more hopeful because someone had chosen compassion over fear.